What's going on, everyone? Today is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. This is episode 47, the Torrey Krug episode. Something a little different. We might sound different for all you listeners out there. We're actually headed to Chicago, just past London, and it's going to be a long drive. So we've already started a little bit of an appetizer conversation talking about hockey, and we really want to get a good episode out there because we haven't had an episode for, I think, over a month or maybe a month and a half. So I got Eric with me in the passenger riding shotgun. I'm driving down the 401 right now. Eric, what's going on, buddy?
What's going on? It's about time we talk some hockey. I think it's honestly been probably 2.5 months because we did not have a playoff episode after all. So I think our last episode was right before the regular season ended. We were on a note where I think there was some big injuries coming, and we were talking about the OV chase being complete. Yeah. But we're in such a different mode now. We've had free agency, we've had the draft. Now we have a bunch of trade rumors. So we're going to bring up three, I want to call them hot trending players right now. Call it to start the epi. But yeah, like you said, Torrey Krug, number 47. We're almost at 50 episodes. So thank you to the viewers who have joined. Make sure you guys have subscribed. And let's get this episode on the way as we approach our next en route stop.
Oh, yeah. So we got a good one for today. I know we want to catch up a lot on the draft and free agency and what's happening now. But I wanted to start off with free agency and we didn't really get to talk too much about what we think was our most impactful pickup for a team. I want to talk about it. I don't want to hear a trade because I know you want to get into a big pickup that the Utah Mammoth made this offseason. Who do you think had the biggest free agency signing of the offseason? Not a trade, but someone picked up on free agency. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that, to be completely honest with you, at first I was like, okay, this is a boring free agency. You see those top-heavy teams kind of staying competitive, re-signing all their players, which I'm not really going to call those pickups since they're just guys re-signing like we saw it with Marchand, Bennett, all those guys. But I'm going to be on the bit of the hot take train today. I know we're always on that topic, but my free agency pickup of the offseason is going to be the Anaheim Ducks, who signed Mikael Granlund to a, I want to say, 3 or 4 year deal.
Yeah, that was a nice one. I mean, he played well with Dallas when he got traded there, and even with San Jose, he was one of their better players. So I know you've been super high on the Ducks, and to bring up them acquiring Chris Kreider too. Like, they've had a couple nice pickups, even signing Lucas Dostal, bringing him up and kind of freeing him as the starter, because they also traded John Gibson, right, to the Detroit Red Wings. So me personally, I think that the biggest pickup of the offseason for a team for improvement-wise, was Tanner Jeannot for the Bruins. I think the high upside for him is really good. As he comes to the Bruins, he plays a really big physical game, and I feel like that is exactly what the Bruins reflect. So considering how much he was traded from Tampa Bay to Nashville, I believe it was, correct?
Yeah.
For how much he got traded for, and now the Bruins decide to sign him to a pretty big ticket, considering he hasn't really played well since he was traded. So I like that pickup. I also, as a honorable mention, like the pickup of them getting Victor Arvidsson as well, another high upside player. So two pickups that I like, kind of a homer for the Bruins, but I do like Mikael Granlund headed to the Anaheim Ducks as well.
Yeah, and I think starting off with Anaheim, the nice alphabet A there, I was really impressed with their, not just off-season additions, but how their contracts look. And I think Dostal, again, he's leading the way. There's no Gibson shadow there now that he's gone. They also, they have the sneaky ads, and they also have just sneaky veterans like Alex Killorn in there, who I know he signed a $6 million deal, but he could be worth that contract next year if he's in their top 6. I really do want to mention guys who can break out this year, and the Ducks are filled with that. A pretty cool stat from the NHL was that the Ducks had the highest percentage of under 23 players scoring goals last year. So I don't know what the percentage was. It was around like 49% though. Wow. So that includes guys like Lacombe. Yeah. It included Zegers, I think, but Gauthier, Carlson, and for me, like, I have to bring up Cutter Gauthier and Leo Carlson because those two are going to have such opportunity this year with Zegers out of there. Yeah. And now they have better wingers with Kreider, Granlund, who might play center, And again, you can't forget a guy like Troy Terry, who did hit the 40-goal mark one season.
Yeah.
So I'm high on the Ducks team. We'll move on kind of a bit of a team-by-team thing, but more of just things that stand out. We saw big moves from the Sabres, not just in the offseason, but a few days ago they signed Connor Timmins to like a 2-year deal.
Saw that.
I mean, despite him being a right shot, I don't really think he provides any value. I'm worried about that team. What do you have to say about Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo obviously traded away last year Dylan Cousins, who I think is a great player. He played so well when he came to Ottawa. Another guy that plays a physical game, even though he's not the biggest body on the ice. But them picking up Josh Norris, although it's a risk, I think that Norris has a lot of high upside too. He's a great player. He just can't find a way to stay healthy. So I'm hoping that he can maybe find his way this summer. Hopefully this start to this season kind of get a little bit of a break. Maybe start with, feet to ground, running from game one, hopefully. He played so well, and we know how good he was in fantasy. We talked about it a lot last year. So for the Buffalo Sabres, I think they're in a lot of trouble. Obviously, Dahlin, there was conversations of him requesting a trade near the end of the season, which he obviously declined. But I think there was very high potential for him to be, requesting a trade, considering the direction that franchise is moving in. I think it's been 18 years since they made the playoffs. Absolutely nothing in their near future convinces me that they're going to make it past game 82. So I'm very worried for these Buffalo Sabre fans.
Yeah, I just feel like that sleeper potential is not there anymore with Buffalo, and the big reason is because of JJ Peterka being gone. I just don't see where the scoring is going to come from. I don't think that Yuri Kulich can be that number one center and thrive. I think he's going to be put in a position where he doesn't necessarily develop his entire game, but maybe his offensive game kind of develops really well on Buffalo's power play, which of course we can see that when you have Tage, Darlene, maybe a guy like Byram even, and then you have Kulich with, I don't even know what other winger you'd have out there, maybe Benson or something, but I think he's going to develop his offensive game. But again, these Sabres I'm very worried about for sure. And I think there's a lot of kind of conversation to be had about what that Atlantic Division has to offer next year. What are your honest thoughts going into the season? And I know these can change, but who's going to make it out of the Atlantic come regular season? We won't talk playoffs yet.
I mean, the first team that comes to my mind is the Florida Panthers. For sure, a contender in the Atlantic. Another team, the Tampa Bay Lightning. We had this conversation last week, and we were saying that, I was saying that I'm not sure if the Toronto Maple Leafs will even make the playoffs this year. With the Ottawa Senators getting better, obviously picking up Dylan Cousins. They also picked up, it's slipping my mind, also Jordan Spence, right shot defenseman, who doesn't have that power play one potential, but just solid third line defenseman that could pick up a lot of minutes. So I think Ottawa's getting a lot better. I think Florida's going to be just as good. I think that Tampa is going to be even better than they were last year. And you're seeing a lot of these teams improving, while the Toronto Maple Leafs obviously losing Mitch Marner and picking up and spending most of that money that he would have taken on a bunch of third liners. I think Dakota Joshua was a good pickup for them. I think Michael Pezzetta probably will play max 25 games, but still, kind of like the other guys we talked about, plays a big, heavy game, same like Dakota Joshua. And obviously Nicholas Waugh, that came in that trade with the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't know if the Toronto Maple Leafs will make the playoffs, but I'm a little optimistic.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. That's a great word. Where I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I wouldn't be willing to kind of compare. I wouldn't bet on it. That's a great word to say. I wouldn't bet on it, but I also wouldn't compare apples to oranges and compare them to a team like Ottawa, because it just doesn't seem fair when we haven't watched any hockey of both teams this year. They're in different spots. I'm going to kind of move on to my Atlantic teams. I know you didn't really finish there with the wild card teams or anything, but I fully agree with Florida being there. I think Tampa's going to be in the running, of course, and I do think Ottawa's going to be in the running, but I don't think they're going to be like a top 3 team. I think they're going to be in a wild card spot for most of the year. Now, they could come out strong with a guy like Stutzel leading the charge or Sanderson or something, but I'm not seeing much movement. I'm just seeing a weak Toronto Maple Leafs team that is going to struggle, and I think the regular season struggles have never really been there for the Leafs. They've always been a a top 3 team in their division usually. They never really are a wild card team. So I think that they could be a wild card team this year, and that's just a different position from the last 12 years almost when they were, before they were brutal with the Kessel-Bozak era. But overall, Atlantic's going to look different. Our Bruins, I'm not too optimistic, but I do think they're going to develop a lot this year. Lots of opportunity for the young guys, including a possibility of James Hagens joining them. We'll see, but I'm very excited for the development of a guy like Lowry, who could play on the top line with a guy like McAvoy. So we'll see about that. The Atlantic's an exciting division to talk about, while we have the Metro, which I'm less interested in the Metro. I don't know about you, Stans.
Hey, you tell me. What's on your mind? What do you think?
You know what it is with the Metro is there's just way too much movement every season with these teams and with their GMs. I'm extremely disappointed with a lot of those GMs, but also the head coaches, and one of them being Rod Brendamore. I don't know if I ever got a chance to mention on the pod, but the whole Rantanen situation was just swept under the rug, and there was no accountability from Brendamore there when he mentioned, I had a great talk with Rantanen about it, and I wasn't going to keep him if he didn't want to play here.
Yeah.
And I was confused because as a coach, it's your job to make guys want to play there and want to be, not just sitting on the bench after a shift, shrugging it off. Or again, he played 5 games to them, so I don't really know how he didn't fit in. But moving on to some of the other teams, we have the Capitals, who I just don't see it with their team. I was faded last year, and I know that there was some great accomplishments going on, but come playoff time, there was no debate that they weren't the better team in that second round series. They were beat 4-1, I believe, maybe 4-2.
Yeah, I think so.
And it sucks to say, but for a team that wins the President's Trophy, usually you'd say, okay, well, they got beat because they ran out of gas or something, but it didn't seem like that with Washington. It just seemed like you were having a classic Logan Thompson playing. I don't know what his ceiling is, but I do think he's kind of at that point now where he's going to be playing good hockey, but never great hockey.
Yeah.
Moving on to some weaker teams, because I'm not going to call the Caps weak and I won't call the Canes weak, but the Islanders are just horrific. Matthew Schaefer is your number 1 D already, while Matt Barzal is kind of your only guy on offense there. I'm very worried about them. So I don't really know where that's going to go. You lost Duclair. You don't really have options. And you lost Dobson.
Yeah.
So I just don't see it for them. I think they're going to struggle. And I think there's some other weak teams that just are going to sit there as well, like Columbus, where you're just too young to really make a dent. And it's not going to be an exciting division. I mean, the Devils, too. You look at that roster, it's kind of a disaster. I don't know if you agree.
Well, it's not very deep. When you talk about the Devils, I think that it's very, top-heavy. Obviously, they had a great start to the year last year, and then Jack Hughes going down made all the difference for them. Even when you were talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets and the New York Islanders, I'd say that I feel pretty opposite to how you were saying and talking about them. I mean, the New York Islanders, although they don't really have the most talented lineup, I still think that this could be a bounce-back year for Sorokin. I still think he's a top 5 goalie in the league, even though he hasn't played like it the past 2 years. There's a lot of opportunity for him. I think Barzal's been waiting for that breakout season that we haven't seen since his rookie year. A lot of potential for him. And I still think that even though Matthew Schaefer might be their number 1 defenseman and run their power play, I think he still has that Lane Hudson potential where he could really run away with the Calder Trophy and have a big season. So I'm not sure if I'm too high on the New York Islanders, but I definitely wouldn't put them down just yet.
All right. Hey, we'll see who's at the bottom of the Metro. That's for sure. I'm not going to count out anyone, but could be the Caps. It could be the Isles. Who knows? I will say I think it's a good time to move on to the West, just with all that boring Metro talk, as I call it. Who do you want to start with in the West?
That's up to you. What do you think?
Let's go Central here.
All right.
Let's go to the Central Division and maybe look at the team that I believe finished dead last, which was Chicago, correct?
Yeah.
So, starting with Chicago, are you going to watch any Blackhawks games this year?
I mean, I definitely would, especially if they're playing against the Leafs. For sure, I'll be watching them. I mean, maybe a couple primetime games, like Saturday night, things like that. Bedard against McDavid, Bedard against Crosby, all that stuff. Another big year, I think, is coming for Bedard. I mean, we're headed to Chicago this weekend, and I know we were going to talk about it at some point this car drive because we still have a couple more hours to go.
Yeah.
But Bedard should be in for a bounce-back year. He kind of had that sophomore slump, and there was some spurts where you saw the potential, and it seemed like now everyone shifted and transitioned to the Celebrini hype, where I still think that Connor Bedard is a very talented player that once he gets a little bit of help around him, I think it'll make all the world of a difference. But that help isn't there just yet, and everyone that they've drafted, Lev Shanov, I believe it is, won't be playing next year, should be playing, I believe, still university hockey, so I don't know if they'll be calling him up just yet. I think he played just a couple games. But, I'm not too high on the Chicago Blackhawks, but I am high on Connor Bedard for next season.
I will piggyback that and say I'm very excited about Bedard, and, I'm going to ignore what his card values say because we know that in the hockey card hobby, those say nothing about his performance. We've seen it with spikes of other players. We've seen guys like Lane Hudson absolutely rise to the occasion. Now, he did obviously have a great season, but, those card prices were pretty ridiculous, I will say. So, like you mentioned, we are in Chicago, and that is something that's going to be a positive, whether or not Bedard has a, third-year breakout or if he pulls a couple inconsistencies. They're definitely the bottom talk of the Central. Do you see a team like Winnipeg kind of stealing that division again and in a no-doubt way?
I mean, I still think that Winnipeg's really good. They obviously and easily have the best goalie in the league. They lost Ehlers in free agency to the Carolina Hurricanes, but I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference because of that line of Velarde, Scheifele, and Kyle Connor. And even Velarde signing that big ticket this summer, you weren't really a big fan of it, even though I thought that they were very, very solid.
Yeah, I didn't love the Velarde signing just because I felt like they could have just extended him for maybe like 3-4 years. I don't think they needed to do it for any more. He's had injury trouble in the past. Mostly was with his back and stuff. And again, while he's a great player, they didn't get anything done in the playoffs, and it was a little disappointing when you had guys like Cole Perfetti having to step up rather than a guy like Gabe Velarde, who should be kind of more of a veteran at this point. I think he's, closing into the late 20s, almost at that 30, not almost 30, I shouldn't say that, but I just feel like Velarde, we haven't fully seen the step up, and although he's healthy, he did still have an injury to deal with at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'll move on from the Jets because we don't need to really talk Hellebuck. We know what he's capable of, but I will say there are some other great teams in that division. One that I want to save for in a minute, but I will ask you the question of who is going to be the better team between Dallas and Minnesota?
Oh, geez. I mean, I would definitely say the Dallas Stars. That's without a doubt. I think that Minnesota's going to have a pretty solid year, but I don't think that they're going to be able to contend in that division. It's such a strong division. Like, you also have the Colorado Avalanche, which are one of the strongest teams in the NHL for sure. I don't think that Minnesota is going to be much better than Dallas. I think that Dallas should be at the top of that division, especially with some of the talent that they had leading up to the trade deadline before they even had Mikael Granlund and before they even had Miro Heiskanen, who missed a majority of the season this year.
Yeah, and also I gotta mention this. It's crazy to think Thomas Harley, he's making $4 million. I don't know if you saw that.
That's crazy.
Makes $4 million, and he kind of was their number one lead because Heiskanen missed half the year.
Yeah.
Hopefully Heiskanen returns. I was talking to you about keeping him in fantasy maybe, and I just don't know at this point. Because Harley looks great. Harley's a great shooter on the point there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he runs that number one power play at some point because Heiskanen just doesn't seem to shoot the puck enough and get those high impact chances on the power play. Not saying he's a bad defenseman. He's great all around, but from that fantasy perspective, which we like to talk about, it's not the same. So,
and like I said,
you did mention Colorado.
Just that chemistry up front. Like they traded Charlie Coyle away, who was fine for them. I just don't see where they're
losing
Mikael
Rantanen
like
is going to
who
we saw a guy like McDavid needed it.
season.
I'm not going to say it's going to hurt them, but And
I think there's going to be a
Barkov
point
it's there
in McKinnon's season where he
has
has a bit of a slump. Let's move out of that, and that's just because he's kind of talked. While he hasn't had one of the last, I know there's 3-4 seasons like Nashville, which playing with Natchez, who also is a right shot. I will say that having a guy Steven Stamkos is on the wing, a very big sleeper in fantasy hockey, or a guy like. And if you want to hear why, I'd love to tell you. If you don't, I'm a little skeptical of how McKinnon. I don't know if you know this, but Stamkos is one of the best snipers in the league.
Jonathan Drouin signed somewhere else. Where do you
history. He's on the reason that he was drafted.
That's right.
But he was good with McKinnon.
No, he was really good. I think they were saying he was almost
not washed.
Per game for the games that he was playing. He
will play all 82 games.
Right, like a missed opportunity to resign.
I'm silent ability. He played like 35 games and had 30 guys points. Right? Can you tell me?
A lot, actually.
So again, that's that only kind of negative. That's incorrect. So I mean, Colorado, they still will be a good team. You're right about Ryan.
I do want to see more.
Anyways, I guess you want to keep it in the Central, but let's move on to our last division, which is the Pacific Division, which we've barely discussed. We talked about Anaheim, and that was about it. So we'll move to that. What stands out to you in the Pacific Division?
There's only one team. You know what team it is.
I don't know.
The Edmonton Oilers. The only team that will possibly win that division. Maybe the LA Kings might make a push, but I think that the Edmonton Oilers are just going to continue to be just as consistent as last year.
Consistent? When?
They went back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals. They went to the Cup back-to-back years.
Consistently.
That's consistency.
Consistently losing, hey?
And they lost.
Talk about terrible regular seasons, though. They barely took the third spot. Okay. You can't not mention Vegas when they got Mitch Marner, dude.
I think Vegas is a good team, but I feel like they're just not going to be as good as people think. I don't even think they're top 5 in the NHL right now for me.
Okay, so you just don't like Pavel Dorofeev?
At the moment, no.
I get it. I mean, they did lose Olofsson, it looks like, because he hasn't signed anywhere.
Has he not signed anywhere yet?
He's still a free agent. So
really?
I don't know what's up with that. Someone's got to sign that guy. He's a sniper.
Yeah.
Let's look at a team like the Flames, because I know I want to mention Dustin Wolf, but what are your thoughts on the Flames?
I think the Flames are going to have a good team. They have a lot of players that I like a lot. I mean, obviously, Mackenzie Weegar, one of the best low-key defensemen in the NHL. Dustin Wolf had a breakout year last year. I'm hoping that he can replicate that this year. I don't know if he'll be able to, though. I mean, for goalies, it's always challenging, especially young ones. So we'll see. Now that everyone kind of has the book on Dustin Wolf, can they take advantage of that? I'm hoping for his success. A really big dark horse on that team, though, I think, is Matthew Coronado, an absolute stud for the Calgary Flames. I feel like he could be in for a good year, and even Nazem Kadri, who I've really grown to like his game the past couple of years. So I think that Calgary should have a solid team next year, maybe squeaking into the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be one of the worst in the NHL, kind of like what we saw at the start of last season.
Yeah, they will. They will be one of the worst in the NHL. They're not a good hockey team. I don't know where that's coming from, but I know you were right last year about Wolf being a breakout candidate.
Remember that? You were hating.
That was extremely sharp of Anthony. Now, it's honestly a good time to kind of just discuss our breakout candidates a bit. I'll give credits to Sance with that take. You also mentioned a center on, I don't know what team it was, as a breakout candidate. And I want to say it was a good pick, but I'll mention my Dylan Guenther pick being pretty sick last year as the breakout forward. I know my goaltender to break out was Justus Noonan, who he did not fully break out, but he did get a change of scenery.
There were spurts where we thought he was going to be really good. I mean, even in when his name got traded, when Georgiev got traded, we thought that he was going to take over, but then ultimately they ended up picking up Blackwood, which was an amazing pickup, and I mean, he's going to be a big name when fantasy drafts come around. But Noonan was a solid pick. I mean, I ended up actually drafting him in fantasy too. I thought it was going to work out really good, and I think I even traded him for.
You got something, yeah.
I think I traded a Noonan for Joseph Wall straight up, if I remember.
McAvoy was.
It was McAvoy and a Noonan for Joseph Wall. So that was not straight up, but I mean, Noonan was a little bit of a sprinkle, and then he ended up being droppable.
Yeah, and then I think we both had Jake Sanderson breaking out as our defense candidate, and I'll say we were pretty sharp there.
Yeah, that was super sharp.
I mean, he had a good year. He was sharp. Again, it was him and Shabbat being good defenders, but he was better, that's for sure, and he's the number one guy. I'll move on to a boring team quick, just so our viewers don't lose interest, but does Seattle have anything to offer this year?
I don't think so. I mean, the only thing they've really offered since coming into the league is that one really surprising playoff win to the Colorado Avalanche a couple of years ago where they stunned them. But besides that, they've just been an absolute snoozer for me.
Yeah, I remember losing a couple bets on that series when I said Colorado would win in 6 or 7, and I think they lost in 7.
Yeah,
but
like 6-7.
that was a tough one. Yeah, no, that was a tough one for sure. I like your quotes there. But I'll end off this division by just saying that the Kings are my biggest, call it not sure team, where I'm clueless about the Kings and if they're actually going to be good this year. You know what? They have a lot of talent when it comes to, dark horse guys who work hard. You got Fiala. Fiala's a stud. You got Kopitar, who still works hard, wins draws. You got Danault, who's call it one of the best defensive centers in the league.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if you're going to have that spark you need, because Brant Clark had a bit of a tough year defensively. He had to play that number one role for a bit while Drew Doughty was out, and it just kind of wore on him. And unless him and Byfield can really put it together, I just think they need more, and they need to add a piece. They need to add a young left winger or a young player. Like, obviously they're not going to get a Marco Rossi from who's an RFA right now, but they need to add something. I don't know what it is. I don't think they can get by Edmonton like we saw they couldn't, or even Vegas. I don't think they'd get by Vegas. So, like I said, to kind of piggyback my first point, I think the Ducks are the sleeper in this division. You know what? They've got forward depth. They got veterans now. You have Trouba, Kreider, and Vetrano, all former Rangers who played together, joining each other back. There's a little bit of locker room chemistry there. And you got a guy like Jackson Lacombe only making $925,000. I don't know, just some steals on that team while your locker room cancer and Trevor Zegras is gone. And I don't know, that's obviously a harsh thing to say, but
You said it.
I said it. So I said it. So it was harsh for me, and I think it just, I can't take it back now, but I think he needed to be out of there. I don't think he worked in Anaheim, and his Michigan's worked sometimes, but that's besides the point. I want to end this podcast with my 3 kind of trending guys right now, and you can maybe just pick one guy and give me your true take on what his season's going to look like. So, are you ready for these 3 players?
I'm ready to hear them all. Do you want me to react to all of them, or just one?
No, I'm going to get you to just pick one. So,
one, that's it? Okay.
And maybe it can just be a guy that you watch. But anyways,
Okay.
First guy is current RFA Mason McTavish, who is trending due to rumors. He grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, and there's a bit of buzz around the Sens possibly wanting him, while, he could really go anywhere because he's a center and also can play the wing. Big boy, right?
Yeah.
Obviously played for the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And next up is a guy we just spoke about, so I don't think you're going to choose him, but Nazem Kadri, who could be traded. Very likely could get traded.
Yeah.
Montreal is an option. And lastly, a guy, I don't think you're going to expect me to mention this guy, but Erik Karlsson,
Wow.
the right-handed shot defenseman making over $10 million a year.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of done with the Karlsson talk. I think he's kind of washed after winning that Norris. He's been really, really underwhelming for the Pittsburgh Penguins so far. But you got to respect what he did while he was in Ottawa. So I guess moving on to Mason McTavish, I feel like that's got to be the guy that I think has the biggest conversation point. If he gets moved, he could be a really, really big, impactful player for a team. I mean, even think about it. A team like the Leafs would love to have a big left shot, second line center that they could use on that power play. I think he's really good. He's worth a lot, though. If he were to get traded, it wouldn't be very cheap. It would be a pretty penny. So any team that gets Mason McTavish from the Anaheim Ducks would be very lucky.
Now, hear me out. I'm going to change the topic to my Leafs hate, and I don't know if I've ever really used the term Leafs hate on the podcast, but not grabbing a guy like Mason McTavish or Marco Rossi is going to be a mistake for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And
I think Rossi would be a great pickup, amazing pickup for the Leafs.
Yes. Now,
perfect.
Do you think Rossi would be like similar price to McTavish?
I'd probably say pretty close. Maybe McTavish would be a little bit more.
I think it's pretty fair comp in terms of both guys who can produce. I guess they both played in the OHL, but honestly, I think
it's a genuinely a loss because we've seen teams throw offer sheets at players. We saw the Blues throw offer sheets at how many players? 2?
Broberg and Holloway.
Broberg and Holloway, and guess what? They got clowned at the start for signing 2 guys who, the Oilers didn't need, and we saw 2 great seasons from Broberg and Holloway. So, anything might look like an overpay, but if you're the Leafs, if I'm the Leafs, I'm instantly sending over Easton Cowan / a prospect, which I don't know if they have a prospect better than Cowan. I'm instantly throwing Brandon Carlo out there because I don't think he has any value, and I'm throwing out probably a first because you're gonna have to give a first you're gonna have to give probably 2 firsts in that case as compensation, right? So I don't know. I just think a McTavish would be amazing. Rossi would be amazing, and they've already lost out on a guy like Bowen Byram who has re-signed now, but was an RFA.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way to kind of wrap up that Leafs hate. I'm not going to go into more of the reasons I think the Leafs won't be good this year, but there's reasons and reasons I could go on for. Starting with their decor, which does not look great in my eyes. So I think that's a good way to end the pod. What are your overall thoughts on this road trip that we're having? We got about an hour till we hit the Caesars Casino.
Hey, yeah, headed to Caesars Casino in Windsor. First time there. My brother actually recommended it, so we'll definitely have to send him a flick when we get there. Let him know we arrived. I think it's going to be a fun weekend in Chicago. Lots of good food. Hitting up a couple places. Some off the top of my head. Giordano's, Adobe Guileless, I believe it's called. Louis Malnati's. And then that ice cream spot. Obiswers, or I don't know. I'm totally butchering the names, but I'm sure I'll remember it for the next episode and have a rating on how all the food went. So I think it's going to be a good trip. Hopefully all goes well. And we're chugging along here.
We're chugging along just over an hour till we get there. So I think that was a great way to do our, call it live episode there, number 47. And be prepared for a nice episode 50 in a few... Hopefully, I want to say in a month and a half before the season starts. Which means we'll have number 48 and 49 coming out before then, and 50 as a big start to the 25-26 NHL season. So cheers, everybody, and thank you for listening.